Welcome back to the Frustrated CEO podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Lyons, and I am here with my esteemed colleagues and a guest today. So first, I'll welcome my friend and colleague of many years now, Patsy Freeman. Patsy, how are you today?
I'm terrific. Thanks. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you. And I'll welcome you, Leb, and Leb Tannenbaum, our other host. I'll turn it over to you to introduce our guest.
Thank you, Patrick. Well, I am excited to introduce our listeners to Stepfone Montgomery. Stepfone is an entrepreneur. Actually, there's so many things to say that if you see me glancing over to the side, I'm reading. Stepfone is an entrepreneur. He's a connector. He's a mentor. He's an experienced advisor and a leader who has recently launched a new business, BZConnects. Steph has 35 plus years of operational experience in the transportation industry, both public and private. He is a lifelong learner. He's hungry to learn. BZConnects' mission is to support businesses of all sizes by promoting collaboration through an online software platform that creates and assists ongoing business relationships. Our purpose is to bridge the gap between large and small businesses. It's an incredible idea. Steph has been chairman of the board for Emerge, elevating the minds, embracing righteousness, and gaining equality, connecting youth with mentors who model transformative leadership involving civil rights and social action. He is a close friend and a wise and engaging speaker. So if you need a speaker and you want to have some fun, Steph is a great speaker. He is passionate. He's passionate about sports. You can see Lawrence Taylor's jersey up behind in this view. He's passionate about football, New York, and his Harley. From Orange County, Los Angeles area, I welcome Stepfone to the Frustrated CEO.
Well, thank you, Leb. I didn't know all those good things about me. I'm glad you're my friend, man. I know a lot of good stuff about me. I like that. I like that. So
yeah.
Can you tell my kids?
Go ahead, Seth.
Can you tell my kids all that good stuff? I don't think they know that.
I'll be happy to repeat that.
I appreciate that. Anyway, go ahead.
Actually, even better. Tell them to listen to you. The Frustrated.
I will.
Then they get it live.
Yeah.
So here's one thing. We've been friends for a long time. We've worked together professionally.
That's right.
And I've never asked you about your name, and I've never met another Stepfone. So if you would feel free to say, okay, here's the story, I think it would probably be great for everybody.
So it's a funny story my mother told me many years ago, and my aunt when she was alive. So my mother had me and was trying to figure out a name for me. So my aunt at the time, God rest her and my uncle's soul. She came in the room. My mother's name was Mac. You know, in the Southern culture, a lot of times in families, everybody has a nickname. It's not just the Southern culture; it's all families. Everybody got a nickname. She walked in there. Her and my uncle had been drinking, and so they were a little sauced up. And they came in the room and looked at the baby, saw me, and said, "You know, Mac, you should name him Stepfone." Well, my mother said, "Where'd you get that name from?" She goes, "I was watching a war movie in Germany, and I heard that name, and I think it's such a beautiful name." And so my mother was like, "I like it." So that's how I became Stepfone, right? Off of some movie my aunt saw, and now I'm Stepfone. And it's funny because my mother changed the spelling of it, because as you can see, it's spelled a lot differently. I've been called every name in the book: Stephanie, Stepfone, Stepfone. I've been called everything. I'm so used to it, it doesn't even matter. As a matter of fact, the funny thing is, when I go to a restaurant now, I don't even use my first name. I use Sebastian, because I know they're going to mess up my name. So I always use Sebastian, because usually there's not a lot of Sebastians around. So I just go, "That's Sebastian." And then they call me. I go, "I'm here." So, that's my name. So
That's good.
Thank you. That's a good story.
Yeah. So,
well, you know, the purpose of this podcast is to talk about things that are challenging, talk about things that keep CEOs up at night, things that they need to tackle that maybe they're not quite sure how to do that. I know, Patrick, you had a couple of things on your mind, so let's get rolling.
Yeah. So, Steph, you are both a business owner.
Mm-hmm.
You are a CEO.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it'll be great this episode to hear your perspective as, what keeps you awake at night as you've built a business. And then you're also a service provider to other clients.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's, I'm sure you'll bring value to the table and stories, ideas, insights from that perspective as someone who supports CEOs and their companies. But I'm interested. So actually, let's start there for me. You know why? Because just a couple of days ago, in a conversation with one of my clients, we were talking about networking. Here's someone who works in a firm and is being looked at, considered for partner somewhere down the road.
Right.
And one area that this person knows they need and want to grow and develop is in being able to do business development, be able to grow the business, go out and talk about the business, network, meet people, establish relationships, and sell what they do. And it's foreign because to this point, they've just been an employee within the company. And actually, it's my story. I think I know I shared with you offline before this started. When I started as my own business, I did so after 17 years of being an employee. And I think I did network, but I didn't know that's what I was doing. And I was the world's worst networker. And I know a lot of people who hate it. So what advice, what guidance would you have for either a CEO or a senior leader or someone who is aspiring to be a senior leader on how to, where do you start?
So, it's funny. When you first started, you were talking about CEO, right? So I was a CEO for an organization, and now I'm a CEO for my own business, which is very different, different, right? When you're a CEO for an organization, you have budgets, you have money. So I work for the government, the state of New York. I work for the New York City Transit and Long Island Railroad, which is the MTA in New York City. Plenty of money, right? Don't really have to worry about where the money's coming from, even though I had to beg a couple times from the city, but that's another conversation for another time. But my point is that when you're a CEO for a company, it's your money. You have to generate the money. When I started this business, I took my own money and decided to start this business. And so one of the things that is different is the money aspect and how you spend the money. And as the CEO of an organization, big organization, you usually have people around you that you can talk to about making decisions. I have people around me that I can talk about making decisions in my business, but ultimately, it's my decision, right? And that decision can decide whether or not your business stays in business for another year or flops. So that's the big difference. And so that's where the frustration with a CEO comes in for me, just a little bit, what we were talking about.
Yeah.
But then you talked about the adverse of networking. So I love networking because I love people. So for me, it's not a big deal. When I network to meet people and talk about the business. I don't expect anybody to just go, oh, okay, I met Stepfone, so I'm going to take a business. No, that's not what I'm looking for. I'll tell you a quick story, and it kind of lends itself to the power of networking. Okay. And I think it's important to know this. So the business that I have now is it's a tech-enabled business relationship firm, right? We, as you said, we try to marry small and large corporations. And the reason I did that because I work for a company, one of the design firms, I'm not going to mention their name, but they wanted me to be the strategic officer in charge of small business. And so I said, well, where's the database? They said to me, well, here's the piece of paper. I was like, wait a minute, that can't be. How do we do that? Then when I was on the public side, there was always a problem with big firms saying, well, we can't find small businesses. Then when I was on the nonprofit side, when I'll mention this organization, Compto, as I was the president, I keep hearing the same thing. So long story short, I started talking about this concept 3 years ago. Now, I met this gentleman who actually built my software for me 5 years ago. Okay. I was at a conference in Dallas, Texas. Him and his wife was there. It was a young couple. and they just seemed like this was their first time. So I said, let me just walk over to them, say hello, introduce myself. That was their first time there. They didn't know anybody. Long story short, I started introducing them to people. Next thing you know, they come to New York. We hanging out. We become friends. They encouraged me to move to California. They made it easy when I came here to California. They introduced me to a lot of people. Their business was doing very well. Long story short, in January of 20, because me and him have talked about this concept, right? And so in January 20, he says to me, hey, listen, I just bought a software company. I can build that software for you. I was like, oh, now I'm working for another client. And I'm like, I'm not even thinking about that, right? I'm not thinking about that. So, okay, you can build it? Okay. So then the pandemic comes. He says to me, what are we doing about that software? I go, what are you? He goes, I'm not joking. We could build it. We start building it. So we start taking my concept, put it on paper, and that's where we are today. Now, I'm not going to tell you how much it cost me. It would have cost me probably high six figures to build the software. I didn't play close to that. I'm going to tell you that. Why? Because of my network, right? Because he saw the vision and he said, I think this will work. So that's just one example of many people I have met over the years that when I met them, it was a true, I want to help you, right? Because my purpose was to help him, to introduce him to other people. And if you go from that perspective of, I'm going to help you, I'm not looking for you to help me, because at the time I wasn't looking for no business. I was just helping them. It became natural, right? It became natural. It's like me and Leb. Leb came to help me because I needed the help, right? He changing culture at New York City Transit. And we hit it off. And now this has become this long friendship, right? So that's what I tell people with networking. Don't expect going in that just because you met them today, next week you get in a contract. Don't work like that, right? I call it the like, know, and trust factor. They got to like you. They got to trust you. And then they'll do business with you. They'll get to know you, right? But if you don't have that, just because you popped up on the scene, you got all these credentials, you did this, you did that. So what? A lot of people do that. So I just think it's because people work with people they feel comfortable with. Right. That's the way the world is. We all know sometimes people are not the best at what they do, but I feel comfortable with them. I can talk to them. And that's what BZ is. We want you to feel comfortable with us, right? I get to know you. You fill out the form, but then I talk to you on the phone a couple times because I want to understand what's your business about. What am I selling for you? What am I really selling? Because I'm not selling the business. I'm selling the leader of the business. And I know that. So that's when it comes to network. And I would just say my advice is don't look for anything. Just do it because it's the right thing to do. Right? Look for how you can help them. Yeah. I'm a firm believer. God takes care of fools and babies, and I ain't no baby.
So, Steph, I have a question off of that. When you were meeting that person in Texas, when we met, you, as Patrick was saying, you were a W-2 employee. Have you noticed any difference in terms of like the pressure to close some business, the pressure to generate income, where you have to really stick to what you just said? And the other question I have is, you have a small team in this company, and you actually have, I think, your son in this company.
Right.
How do you translate or train that as a kind of, this is the approach, this is our mindset, this is the principle around networking, when you also feel some financial pressure? And is it really different?
Yeah, it is different because I do feel financial pressure because, got to make payroll every 2 weeks. Yep. So that's important. For my son, it's not difficult because he's a spitting image of me. So, but for other people, it is because he saw me my whole life and he saw what I've done. So he kind of picks up on it. He's pretty good at it. For other people, it's difficult. They're not like, I have a woman who works for me who's my assistant. She's been working for me since I brought her on. I opened doors in April, but I brought her on in November. But the reason I brought her on in November is because I see potential in her. She's a young lady, very smart young lady, just super smart, but doesn't know this business as well. Her mother's from this industry, and that's how I was able to get her. But just reinforcing that you know this, like you do this every day, and practicing with her, and just, and sometimes I've let her take sales calls, and I let her make a mistake. It ain't gonna kill us, right? Because she's got to learn. Because part of this for me is, and it goes back to training the next generation, right? Even though I look like I'm young, I'm not that young. So I'm not going to be doing this forever. So the whole purpose of this is to allow the people that are working for me to move up in the company and kind of take over, right? And paying them a good wage, and I can be the guy, go and play golf and doing all the networking and get all the business and let them run the day-to-day. That's what I'm looking for. Right? I'm not looking to run the day-to-day for the next 10 years. I'm not looking to do that. I'm looking to have an established business. So it's a matter of training them and helping them make mistakes along the way. We've talked about this many times. You have to let people make mistakes, right? We're all imperfect. So yeah, you may not say it exactly the way I say it. Okay, this is my concept. This is my baby. So of course, I don't have to think about things. It's just natural. But some things I've had to think about, right? So just helping them. She works with me, so she's here, 3 days a week. She actually comes to the house and we sit down and talk. The other people, I talk to on the phone. We have team meetings, those type of things. And they hear me over and over again. And I just let them make mistakes. A couple of them made a couple of mistakes. All right, it's not the end of the world. It's a startup, right? So having people buy into this concept, because this concept is very different than before. I don't think there's matter of fact, I've done research. There's no one else doing this except for us. So it's a different concept. We're trying to marry the two industry, two entities together and make it easy on the prime and make it easy on the small business, because we're doing all the legwork. Really, that's what it comes down to. So I hope that answered your question. Did I answer your question, Lev?
Yeah, it did. And it just leads to one other question, and then we'll pass it around to, many more questions. But do you think, Steph, that it's harder to launch right now in this hybrid or virtual kind of world, or, because you're BZConnects, but
Right.
we're not necessarily sending, our people to connect physically with people the way we did before the pandemic started. And just anything that's kept you up at night, anything that's made you rethink some things, because, you are the CEO of BZConnects and you launched this thing in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah. And I thought it would be helpful to do that because of the pandemic. I could have waited. But I just thought, because of what we're doing in a virtual world, this would be needed. And then there's some things coming out of the government with Justice 40 and some other things with the infrastructure bill. But I just thought we need to get on the map. People need to know us. We don't need to wait until those things come out, then launch. So I'm looking at the future. I'm looking at what's going on in LA here with all the infrastructure bill, with the Olympics going on. I just thought it was time. Olympics is 2028. This is 2021. We want, because we have to be rolling at least by 2023. We got to be rolling, because we got to help people to understand, how do they get these contracts? How do they get on these various bids? And see, our goal is to get you on a team prior to the RFP. Like if we get you on with the RFP, that's not the time you should get on. You need to get on prior to the proposal coming out. You need to work with some of these big corporations way in advance, so that this way you're their go-to person, right? And they vetted you, and we've done all that work. So yeah, this has been a little bit more challenging, because, as you know, I like to speak. I like to be in front of people. I liked all that interaction, lunch and dinner and playing golf and all that other stuff. Can't do it, right? So now there's limited things to do, right? So I always have to pick and choose what's the best thing to do, right? Like I went to a golf outing, and I made the mistake, and this is my mistake. I made the mistake. Not too many companies showed up for the golf outing. So was it really worth it for me to sponsor that golf outing, right? So now I asked for the list, like how many people you got coming? What is it? What time of the day? Who's coming, right? But that's, those are things that you learn as you go, right? And not that I say that it was a bad experience going to that golf outing, by no means. I don't want the people who listen to this think that, I'm not coming back, right? But just, I have to be careful because when you go to a golf outing, I got a booth set up. I got my employees there, right? I have to pay them. So it's not like I just, you're going to the golf outing, it must be a lot of fun. Oh, no. It costs money, right?
Yeah.
We got giveaways. You got to be fun. You got to stand out, right? Yep. They got to say, that BZConnects, we like them. Right? You just can't go there and put a table down and go, yeah, we're here. How you doing? No. It's the sales pitch. Everybody's uniform, shirts. Everybody got to look. They got to go, who's this BZConnects? Who's this guy? Right? It's different in business when you do things like that compared to when you're a W-2 employee. You go to a golf outing, W-2 employee, you just go have a good time and drink and smoke. Yeah, that's great. I don't look at it from that perspective. I look at it, what's the names? What do they do? What projects are they working on? How do we get on those projects? How do we get people in front of them? So it's a lot of, it's different. And the one thing I will say is you got to do your research. Like, you got to go, you just can't show up and go, okay, I'm here. Oh, no. You got to target people. Hate to say it, but I want to know the project manager, that's building the US Link, here in LA. I want to know the guy that's rebuilding the soccer stadium out here. Those are the guys I want to know. Right. Some other people, not so much, because I want them to hear about who we are. Right. I'm not going to give you a sales pitch. They're just going to naturally ask, so what you do? Right. Mm-hmm. That's why I smoke cigars. It's probably a bad habit, but I go to cigar lounge. People, what do you do? This is what I do. And I don't use a paper card. I use an electronic card. Why? The electronic cards take them to my website, which takes them to my platform. Mm-hmm. So I have to think about us, right? Where before I didn't have to think about this stuff. Right? What's the message? We are a tech-enabled business relationship firm. So everything we do has to be around tech. Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Makes total sense.
Yeah. So people go, where's your business card? I don't have one. Here, scan this. Oh, that's pretty nice. Oh, wow, that's nice. I've never seen this before. You go to our website, you'll see some things you never saw before either. See? So it's not just it's a simple saying. Now I piqued their interest just because of that business card. Right. Which is different.
So it's obvious you're a natural connector and that you love doing it. I'm curious what you're learning in this virtual world when there aren't golf tournaments and you're still networking. What are you learning? What are you seeing? Both in how you connect, but how other people show up to connect with you.
Oh, the one thing that Patsy, I got to tell you, this is like, we had a networking event. So once a month, I put on a webinar about, I'll have various speakers come in and talk about whether it's a design firm or a construction firm, or we've had some agency folks come in. And then one time I did about, there's a place, Founders First out of San Diego. They help startups and other businesses with funding, right? Because the big thing is money, right? And so as part of that, one of their people is very good at networking, and another person I know, we had them on and we started talking about networking. And so what I found is in this virtual world is you have to call people 2 and 3 times, maybe 5 times, maybe 10 times, right? Because everybody's inundated with emails, right? So you got to do something that makes them stand out. I use a lot of text messaging sometimes because most people answer the text message. Emails, not so much, right? Because in the hierarchy of emails, your boss comes first, and then your team, and then I'm at the bottom, and I recognize that, right? Because I'll get this stuff later. I've had people go, Steph, I was supposed to call you 3 weeks ago. Yeah, I know. I don't get upset about it, right? Because I know where I come in the hierarchy, right? But at least you're calling me back. So I've had to learn the patience to deal with things like that and not to give up. I have a list of people I called on Monday, and then I'm not a pest. I'm not going to call you on Tuesday and Wednesday, but I may call you on Thursday, right? I may give you 4 days and call you back or send you an email. Or if I know you're going to be at a particular event, I'm going to go there. I'm going to say, I just look at you like, hey man, what am I, wood now? You don't call me back? Steph, I'm so sorry, because everybody's busy, right? Everybody, it's not intentional. Some people take it personally. It's not personal, right? We all got things to do. We sit in the computer, we sit in our rooms, and you go, oh, I got to answer another email. I got another text message, right? So, and the other thing I found is people having their cameras off, Patsy. I don't get that. I don't get that. Like if you were in a meeting, you would be present.
Yep.
Even though you might not like what they're saying, you think it's boring. I mean, we've all sat in those meetings, right? But you got to be there. But to turn your camera off and just go, yeah, I'm not going to listen no more. I'm just going to pretend I'm here, but I'm not really here. I don't get that. To me, I think it's disrespectful to the speaker too. I think it's very.
I agree with that.
Yeah, and I agree with you wholeheartely, and I don't think people realize the damage that it does to the perception that others have about you.
Right.
When you do that, similar circumstance. When I see that, you're better off not showing up.
Right.
Than showing up with your camera off, because with your camera off, everyone, whether you like it or not, people are making assessments about you and your participation or your lack thereof, and it's not pretty. I think it withdraws from the relationship rather than if you're not there. Sometimes it's just a reason for people to reach out. Hey, you weren't there. How you doing? But it doesn't leave people with a negative thought or feeling about you, like leaving your camera off. I agree with you.
Yeah, and see, that's why I put my name down at the bottom and I put my company, because I want you to know who I am, right? And so I think it's important for people to do that. Now, some people will do that, but when you're in these big webinars, like I had a webinar which was excellent. We had over 200 people in there. I didn't know where everybody was, right? So I asked people to put their names down there. I mean, we had the listing, so of course we call people and talk to them later, but it was part of networking, especially when you put somebody in a room or, because sometimes with the networking, they put you in a room, they got a moderator. So now they can say, oh, so that what, and I used to do it intentionally. I would just say BZConnects and they would go, what's a BZConnects? Oh, I'm glad you asked, right? So now that's my potential to start talking, right? Send me some information on that, Stepfone. Sure, no problem. Because it's not, it's about people knowing who we are. I don't expect you to go, oh, BZConnects is in the house. Oh, let me use them tomorrow. No. You have to know we exist so you can use the service. It may not be today. It may not be tomorrow. It may be a year or 2 years from now. It's like a big corporation told me the other day, Steph, I don't think we have a need for your service. I said, right now? I said, in 2 years, you'll be back. And jokingly, I said, it's going to cost you more money then, right? And they laughed at me. I said, you can laugh all you want. But in 2 years, it's going to cost you more money. So, and they just laughed. They go, you're serious? I go, yeah, I'm serious. I said, because the concept is there and it's a good concept. It just, you can't get your people to buy into it right now. And she said, you're right, Steph. I can't get them to buy into it right now. I said, I understand. But it's going to just cost you more money later on. I said, but, we still going to talk. She goes, you're not going to give up? Of course not. I'm just not going to talk to you as much. That's all. That's all. You just got to, I don't take this personally. Like, it's not personal. Not like, oh, we don't like you, Stepfone. Okay. But I know what we got is something you can use. It's going to help you make your life easier. So.
Stepfone, what you're like 8 months, 9 months in. What metrics are you looking at to determine, whether you're getting the traction you want or, whether you're being successful, the kind of things that maybe make it easier to sleep as opposed to, tossing and turning all night saying, I don't know if we're going to fold or not, because somewhere along the line here, those new clients need to come in as paying clients, and all those connections need to start to turn into
right.
The vision that you have, which
right.
is this whole connecting, the smaller and the larger businesses, and making it easier and improving the business and really the lives, especially of the smaller businesses that don't know how to subcontract with the really big, the big contractors.
Yeah. So the metric I'm using is I know I need to be in business for a year before I really going to start to see any revenue come in, right? And so I got some revenue coming in, but as my friends like to tell me, and it goes back to, before I tell this story, I use analytics. So I go onto the website and I see who's looking at what. I can tell, right? I can tell when you change your profile. Are you active? Are you not active? What you've done when the last time you did it. How many hits are we getting on the website daily? How many hits are we getting at the RFP and the calendars? So I can tell all that. So I look at the analytics. The analytics tell me a lot, right? Remember years ago, we would have to guess, but I use the analytics. So that tells me if I'm going in the right direction. We at one time, I have some people have said to me, well, if you expanded just from California, so now our database we have a free portion of our database, almost like MailChimp and some other subscription-based programs. Like you can go in there and your company's already in there. If you're in the California, Texas, New York market, your company's in there already. And we allow you just to update some basic information. Now, if you want to go to the next level, which all the companies at big times are looking at, that costs you a couple dollars. And if you want to go to the next level, that costs you some more money. So that's how we do it. But we do have a free version. And we're doing state by state as we move along. So that has helped me a great deal. But looking at the analytics, and I know, as I was going to tell you, one of my friends said to me the other day, he said, I said, how's business going? I go, it's going okay. He goes, well, how many contracts you got? And I told him, and he said, it took me 2 years before I got my first contract.
Yeah.
He said, so you're doing very well. So, and another friend of mine, the guy who built the software, he told me the same thing. He said, it took me 18 months. He said, so, but Leb, you know me, I'm an overachiever. I like to overachieve, under promise and over deliver, right? And so for me, it's not going at the pace I would like for it to go, but it is well, right? And so once again, things like today, which I really appreciate you guys having me on the Frustrated CEO, lets me get my name out there. I understand that people have to know what I have, right? And so this helps me to do that and to talk about things, because once again, now when people listen to this, they get to know who I am as a person, right? And they go, oh, he seems like okay guy, because you can read something about and then they do a little business with me and they go, oh, he's trustworthy. Okay, well, let's see what. And then because word of mouth is the best advertisement, right? I can go over golf outings, put articles in magazines, write articles ourselves, but word of mouth is the best. It's the best. Reputation is really the best. And you got to remember, my reputation is mostly on the East Coast. I had to come out here and establish a reputation, right? Because East Coasters are different than Californians. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to say nothing.
That's why. Don't say anymore. Yeah.
I love my California people now. Please don't get that wrong. I love living here in California, but they're different than East Coast. That's all I can say.
Steph, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this question. So, tie it back to other CEOs, right? It's the frustrated CEO. So for the CEO who's listening, whose results are not where they want it to be, what do you do to continue to get up every day? What do you do to continue to, how do you fix that? How do you correct that?
I would say you got to look at what you're doing. You got to talk to somebody else, because sometimes we get in our own head, right? And we think what we're doing is right. And sometimes it's not. So sometimes you got to be able to have somebody in your kitchen cabinet, as we like to call it, that can give you critical information and take the criticism. So don't go, well, no, what I'm doing is right. No. My buddy, who I talk about all the time, who I think you should have on this podcast, I really do. His name is Jason Mercurius. He's a bright young man. He really is. I only got great things to say about Jason. And when I first met him, I thought he was a little quirky, but as I got to know him, like, nah, he's been thinking about being an entrepreneur since he's probably a teenager, and he's been very successful, very, very successful. And so that's my guy that I talk to, right? That's, and him, because of him, I've met 3 other guys who are his group that I talk to, and I'll call my friend Arrow, who runs another big corporation, big company. He started on his own. And he tell me, no, Steph, don't feel bad. This is part of the process. So having people to talk to who have been through this experience is very helpful, right? Because he has a software program too. And so that has been very helpful to me. And plus, they know what I'm going through. So they've introduced me to other people going, Steph just started his own business. This is what he's doing. So they go, oh, I don't have a need, but I know this guy. Because again, it's all part of the networking, right? That they're helping me because they know that where I've been. And so that's what I would say to all CEOs. You need to talk to somebody else on your level. Not talk to your staff, because their staff don't understand. Your significant other may understand, but most of the time they don't. Because it's that thing of getting up every morning and going, okay, I'm going to go right back at it. After you've been told no 5 times in one day or 15 times in one day, you go, am I doing the right thing here? Right. But then one day it hits and you go, ooh, guess I am. Right.
That's
so that's, and you got to build up in yourself. And I got to tell you, the other thing I do is I've been reading a lot. Right. There's a lot of books written about CEOs and how they overcome certain things. I think there's a book I'm reading right now. And I actually know this guy's name is Think Again by Adam Grant. The Power of Knowing What You Don't Know, right? Because there's a lot of stuff that we don't know, especially as CEOs of your own business. When it came to the transportation industry, I can say I was pretty good at it, right? But I'm still learning this entrepreneurial thing. Like, I don't know everything. And the fact that I don't know everything makes me hungry for learning, right?
Yeah.
I use this expression all the time. The older I get, the dumber I get. Let me tell you why I say that. It's because when I was 35, I thought I knew everything. Patsy, you couldn't tell me nothing. I dressed well. I had a good job. I drove a nice car. But my lane that I was in was such a small lane. I didn't know nothing. Then as I started to get older and get into different aspects, and boy, it widened up like this. And how can you know everything when your world is like this? You can't. So that's why it's good to have advisors and have people in your life that can help you. For me, I come from, my father was humble man, drove a truck. Now I'm running businesses. I'm running MTA. I'm doing all this stuff. Somebody got to help me. That's why I got people like I can call. Am I thinking right? Is this right? You need those people to help you. I think it's so important. We can read a book. Yeah, okay, Adam wrote this book. It's a great book. I'm not knocking out his book. Adam, if you're listening to this, please, I'm not knocking your book. But the book, we are all experiential learners. Like, we learn from experience, stories people tell us. I don't know if I ever told you, Leb, there's a story that Carmen Bianco told us one time that saved my life.
Saved your life?
Yes. Carmen was talking about, he was on the highway one time, and he said, I was going to go around this truck, but I said, no, it's too icy. I'm not going to do that. I'd be kind of crazy. I forget what he was telling us, but it had something to do with that. Okay, I remember that story. I was living in Staten Island. I was on the Goethals Bridge. Going up that hill at the Goethals Bridge. This truck was going slow. I said, I'm going to go around this truck. It was icy. I said, you know what? I remember that story Carmen told me. I ain't going around this truck. I'll wait till I get on there. What happened? As he started to go up the hill, he started to slide. And the tractor trailer came like this, right? I would have been on the side of him. The other cars that were coming it was a pileup. But I was behind him, so I was able to slow down and not get involved, right? So my point is that was a second thinking that saved me from, I don't know if I would die, but danger, right?
Yeah.
Because Carmen told that story, and I don't know why it stuck with me, but it stuck with me. So that's how we learn. We tell these little stories, and I've told stories that I don't even remember I told. And people go, Mr. Montgomery, I remember that story you told 7 years ago. And that's why I am where I am today. I go, oh, so the power of words, because sometimes you don't know, like you don't know what impact you're having on people. You really don't. And so I don't even think Lev knows how much of an impact he's had on me. I don't think I can even express, him sitting down, talking to me, working through some situations, especially when we were at Bombardier, but I'm not going to mention that place.
Yeah, well, I'd say don't tell him the impact because it'll go straight to his head.
Yeah. But I'm just saying that helps us. So from a CEO perspective, getting back to that, talk to another CEO, get friends around you that are, CEOs, and be honest. Go, hey man, this is not working the way I want it to work.
Yeah.
Everybody ain't making $1 million. Okay, let's be honest. Yeah, we want to get there, but we ain't there yet.
So you're taking me back to Bombardier, you're taking me back to MTA and New York City Transit. I remember when Carmen decided the vision really wasn't energized, it wasn't the right vision anymore. You have a vision, but the thing I want to ask you about, and I remember some of the challenges that we did talk about together, is around culture. And that you can have a great strategy if you don't have the culture and the people to deliver on the strategy. It's going to be really difficult. If not, it's just a nightmare. It's just not going to work. So you're resilient. You spoke about the resiliency that you have. You're a natural connector. You're a storyteller. People pick up on that. I'm sure some of that is in the culture, but how do you pass that into the culture? How do you? And it's not just developing people, but I have to imagine there, and I know at Staten Island as an example, there were culture issues. There were people who refused to get along with each other or who dropped the ball too regularly, and you can't do that when you're running a railroad. So can you share a little bit about maybe some of the either frustrations or the insights you're gaining now with creating a culture for BZConnects?
It's funny because I have a person who said they got it, but I don't think they fully got the concept until maybe about a month ago. And she was with me since August of last year. Mm-hmm. I think she talked it, but she didn't really believe it. Then when she seen it in practice, it's constant reassurance that it's going to work positive, and even sometimes she would say things and I'm like, I would take it to the side. I'm like, you really don't believe in this? No, I do believe it. Well, that's not what you're saying. You're saying you're saying you believe in it, but you're saying things that make me believe you're not. The message that you're receiving. I said, I'm all in. As you can tell, I'm all in. I put my money behind it, my spirit, my family. I said, I'm all into this. So, but it just seems like you're waiting to see what other people say about it. We can't worry about what other people say about it, because the one thing is that, I've found if they didn't invent it, it's not a good idea. Right? They don't come up with it. So how you have to live the culture. I mean, for me, and I'll go back to Staten Island and Bombardier, two organizations that we tried to change the culture. And I think at Staten Island, we were very successful in doing that, because some of the things that we did are still in effect. I actually talked to the acting VP last week, and she said some of the things are still in effect that we put in there. So that's good. You have to live it, and people have to see that you're looking to benefit them. You're not just looking to benefit yourself. It goes back to that networking thing, right? Even with some of the companies I've worked for and working with, I've done some things for them kind of free so they can see the benefit. And then once they see the benefit, they go, oh, okay, we'll sign up. Okay. Because It's a new concept, right? So it's the same thing with culture. They have to see that you're living this, right? And for me, it's difficult, if I don't believe in it, not to live it, right? There's some people in the past that I worked for that I didn't believe in them. So it was difficult for me to work for them, because I thought what they said and what they did was not centered around their actions. I'm an action guy, right? Actions mean more than me, because people talk words all the time. Words don't mean anything. Actions speak louder than words. So I think with culture and everything around that, I like to have a fun company, right? I don't stress my people. I don't call them every day. I don't. I can tell what they're doing by what should be done. If I call them and they work from home, right? So if I call them and they're in the store, I don't go, well, why are you at the store? Okay. And I just look at the hours. I can tell whether or not you were there or not. I mean, I don't have to. You're at the store maybe because your mother's sick or your grandfather's sick and you had to go get medicine for them. That's one of the benefits of working from home. So, right.
Yeah.
Right. So if people feel that way, they work harder for you because you're not stressing them out. I'm not trying to stress you out. Right. I want to have fun. I want this to be fun. I want us to enjoy this as we build this bigger and bigger. And then when we get to that, $10, $20 million a year we're making and this big company, you can remember those days because, listen, the more work, the more stress you have. I'm not looking to stress myself out. Really not. So.
What are you doing to keep yourself healthy?
I go to gym every morning, about 6 o'clock. I get up and go to the gym for about an hour and a half. I'm back home by 7:30, have my coffee, and usually start about 8 o'clock, take a shower. So I do that. I've been watching what I eat. I think I told you I was on the keto diet a while ago, but keto taught me how to eat properly, what combinations of food to put together. And so I was able to lose about 40 pounds. And
wow.
I kept it off. And so between that and going to the gym and my vitamins, and I've been doing pretty well when it comes to that. I want to live a long time. I got a lot to live for. And, I like to ride my bicycle and, I go hiking every Saturday, because I live here in beautiful Orange County. There's plenty of trails. I don't want to make everybody jealous. It's always sunny here, The coldest it gets is like 60 degrees, So, when you live like that at Holly Range, I just, so that's what I do to kind of keep myself, I ride my motorcycle, which is a lot of fun with my buddies and things like that. So there's a lot to do. So.
Awesome.
Yep. That's great.
I got one more thing that I know is important to you. So it probably ties to culture and ties to a lot of everything we've already talked about, but you've been giving of yourself and contributing to society, contributing to, young people who don't necessarily have a mentor. Maybe they don't have that model at home, introducing them maybe to some business or leadership concepts. I just think sometimes society is actually keeping CEOs up at night. The dissension, the division, the challenges of young people who may seem disconnected or, uninterested or interested in the wrong things. Can you talk just a little bit and maybe give the listeners here, the other leaders here, any insight or gems about what does it mean to also include, even while you're an entrepreneur, even while you're building a business, and it's really time consuming to participate and contribute into the community or the society that you're surrounded by?
Well, for me, it does two things. It helps my business. And the second time, it's just something I really enjoy. I come from a giving family. We were very religious and we used to spend a lot of time ministering to other people. I'm not in organized religion anymore, but that's how my spirit moves me. I've been very fortunate to have some great mentors in my life. And so those mentors have helped me to be the man that I am today. My father is a good man, but he worked a lot. And so as I got into this working world, people helped me to develop. I mean, when I talk about it, I'm not talking about guys that are always CEOs. I used to sweep trains for a living, and some of those guys had been in the industry for years, 25, 30 years. And I was a young kid at 20 years old, and they just mentored me, just because I just would listen to them. And, and then as I started to move up, other people started to mentor me. And so you never know. And I think we talked about this earlier. You sometimes say things to people, you don't know what impact it's going to have on their life. And it also shows you where you really fit in the scheme of life, right? The perception that you see on TV sometimes is skewed until you get into the community. And everybody's not looking to do you in. Everybody's looking to eat and possibly be where you are, right? And so sometimes we think in our jobs, I'm not the CEO, I'm just the director. But to a kid in a community that's impoverished, you're better than the CEO because you come in his community and try to help him to be better, right? You talk to him about life, right? You talk to him about some of your experiences. We all got experiences and it doesn't matter what color you are. Yeah. People always think it's like, well, how can I go into a Black community and help them? You can, or a Spanish community and help them. I mean, there's low-income white people, so it doesn't matter what community it is. It's just a matter of helping. You have been privileged. Look at the four of us. We are sitting here on a podcast talking about it, right? Most people would love to be on a podcast. This is no big deal for us. But to a kid, you on a podcast? What? They talking to you? Are you kidding me? Like, so for us, this is normal. But for other people, it's not normal. We sitting in our houses, computers, printers, all types of things. We're going to go downstairs and grab something to eat later, go lay down, turn the TV on. Some of these kids don't have that. Yep. Right? Yeah. And they don't know how to get it because they don't come from families that can tell them how to get it. Right. Mm-hmm. Some of the families they come from, all they know is, I need to rob and shoot people to do that. And they don't really want to do that because they don't want to live like that because they see what happened to their family. So, we have a saying at 100 Black Men, what kids see, they will be. Mm. Most of us, they don't see because we working. Right? We're not hanging out in the corner in the street. We're not. We working. So that's why it's important for us, especially leaders as Black men when it comes to the Black community, to go into the community and show them what we're doing. Right? It may be boring sometimes, but sometimes it's not. They want to see how did you get there, right? Because they see the athlete, right? And they see what they do, but they don't see the regular person because there's a lot of regular people driving Ferraris and Bentleys and all that other stuff, right? You don't see those people, right? And how did they get there? It's through education, it's through networking, it's through working hard. They got kicked down a little bit. They ain't robbing people, they ain't doing all that other stuff. That's what they need to see. And so I think it's my job as one of the I think it's my job. I'm not lying. I just think it's important for me to show, am I Barack Obama? Of course not. I'm not even close to Barack. But Barack can't come into the community like I can. So I can have a bigger effect than Barack can. Yes, we all look up to Barack. I love Barack, right? Whether your politics are. But I'm using him because he's the highest level Black man that has served this country, right? Take his politics out, right? But he's doing things in the Chicago community that is so important. And he's made little mini me's of him to do that. So that's why I think it's important for us, and no matter what community it is, to go back to community and serve.
That's awesome.
Great. Love it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Well, should we begin to bring this into the home stretch? Okay. So for listeners who have been with us a while, you know what we're about to do. If this is your first time listening to the Frustrated CEO podcast, we end every episode with something we call Let's Get Practical. You can download this directly from our website, thefrustratedceo.com. And you can get all the Let's Get Practicals from previous episodes as well. But what we do here is we're going to hit the key points, the key takeaways, the practical applications that our listener, you, can begin to implement tomorrow in your business, in your life, to start making inroads in all the areas that we've covered today. I have a bunch, which just means, Steph, that was a lot of really cool wisdom that you spewed today. So thank you for that. Who'd like to? Who wants to
start, Patrick?
Okay, I'll start with a couple. And then I'll so that I don't tie everybody up. Okay, right off the bat, Steph, you were talking about you got to train your people and you got to let them make mistakes, right? That's how they learn. And that's a hard concept for leaders who want things to go well. They maybe want to save their employees from making mistakes, but you said even just a few minutes ago, we are experiential learners. So allowing people to make mistakes and not beating them up for it, but using those as teaching moments. That to me is a key takeaway. This came to mind when you were talking about the fact that you launched you launched a business in the middle of a pandemic. Sometimes you just got to launch in spite of the immediate obstacles that are directly in front of you, right? So the immediate obstacle is there's a pandemic. Maybe we should delay this. But then when you peeled that back, you had all these other reasons why, now's the time to go. Now's the time to go. Now's the time to go. So sometimes we can get frozen by what's immediately in front of us. You got to look past that. Sometimes you got to launch even in spite of the obstacles that are directly in front of you. Let's see. Let me pull another one. So this is networking. Be persistent and be patient. In particular, here in the virtual world, and don't take it personally. Persistent. You said, sometimes I got to follow up with people 5 times. I got to text them a bunch of times. I know where I am in the priority list. So you can be persistent, but you can also be patient and recognize everybody's busy and I may not be at the top of the priority list. Can't take it personally. Just have to continue to be persistent and patient. That's right. And that's how networking grows.
Mm-hmm. Right.
All right. Who's up?
Excellent.
You want me to go?
Go for it. What do you got? What are a couple of key takeaways from today's conversation a leader can implement tomorrow?
Okay, so 3 things I got. Hungry to learn.
Yes.
Right. You got to be hungry to learn. You got to, I have listened to and been on webinars that I didn't think was value. And after I got off, I go, ooh, I'm so glad I attended that. Right. So you got to be hungry to learn. I think you mentioned it before, patience. Got to have some patience. Right. You can't, with networking, everything. I like to say, and I said this to Leb the other day, it's a slow burn, no reference to California Wi-Fi out here by no means. No reference to that. But it's a slow burn. Like, we're heating up. Like one day we're going to be a raging fire. And we know that, but slow burn. Let's just be patient. And then the last thing I want to say is, which we talked about the last thing, was get involved in community. It helps your mindset, helps as an individual, help you grow. Giving always helps you become a better person, right? And so we all want to, because what's our mark in life? And I've joked about with Leb, right? So what do I want to be known for, right? I want to be known for somebody who is compassionate, that always helped other individuals. My goal is that when I pass away and leave this earth, that they have to hold my funeral at Yankee Stadium. Please, not Citi Field, because I don't like the noise. But, okay, Yankee Stadium, because that's how many people are going to show up at my funeral. Right? And that's a metaphor. So when I go to do things, I say, okay, I'm helping them, and I'm not looking for anything back. And it helps with networking. It helps with everything else, because I'm helping you, right? And when you have a helping spirit, believe me, God takes care of you, whether you believe in God or not, but it's going to come back to you. It really is. So I think getting involved in community would help you a great deal.
Amen.
That's great. Well, I'll jump in with that. Storytelling is powerful.
Yep.
And based on one of your stories, it can save your life.
That's right.
Right. Now, storytelling is an art, and so it can be learned. You're a natural storyteller, Steph, but somewhere along the line, you probably learned from other people, maybe not even recognize it. But storytelling is powerful, and it can be learned. So for, all the executives out there listening, if you don't consider yourself a storyteller, reconsider. That's one thing. I'd say the other is it's not only okay, it's a choice to add fun into the DNA of your culture. Right. And I took note of take care of yourself. Model being healthy by being healthy.
Right.
You know, I'll never forget the time at New York City Transit when we were in a room with about 12, 14 leaders, and everybody was overweight. And somehow, you know, it was just pointing to the obvious, and everybody looked at each other and burst out laughing and said, I need to do something about this.
Right.
So you're modeling being healthy instead of just talking about it. And I think that's, you know, that's also really important. There's a whole lot more, but I'm going to stop there. Patsy?
Well, one I would add to the networking is you build relationships in order to help other people succeed. And I don't know if I think these last. So they first want to like you, then they want to, is it trust you or know you, and then trust you, so that there's, you know, it's you're in it for the long haul. So that one has really stuck out for me. And then just the basic is you got to do your research. You know, analytics research is your friend. So use it that way. And don't be afraid to course correct based on what you learn.
Right.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good.
Yep.
And then the last one I would add is build a strong support team for, you know, colleagues that are at your level, because it's rough going it alone.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
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 I'm going to circle back and add one more because it was powerful the way you said it, Steph. You said you have to live the culture and you have to show your people how it benefits them, and that'll make you a leader that they can believe in. You talked about having leaders that didn't live the culture, and you said, I just couldn't believe in them. And I think that's leadership is about influence. You can't influence anybody who doesn't respect you, doesn't believe in you. So you got to live the culture. You got to show people why it benefits them, and that'll make you a leader they can believe in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
I'm sometimes amazed. I hear from people. I retired 8 years ago, and I hear from people to this day. Like I was just talking to staff at Staten Island the other day, and I'm just amazed that I still hear from them. It's been 8 years, right? But we talk on a regular basis. You know, sometimes they call me boss. I'm like, I'm not your boss no more. Like, but that's what they still call me. Like, so it's knowing that I had an impact, right?
Yeah.
And even in places where you don't think you had an impact, like Bombardier Lab, I've talked to some people from there. They go, no, you had an impact, really. I go, yeah, but I didn't think I did, right? So sometimes you have impacts on people you don't even recognize, and you know, it's humbling sometimes. I got to tell you, it is really humbling sometimes. It really is. So
I'll add one more as we close out, which you mentioned, which I think it takes intentionality. It takes a certain mindset to accept criticism and remain open-minded.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes the pressure on the CEO is I've got to have the answers, or, you know, there's things I don't want to hear. And that the way you said that, and just remaining open-minded, taking the criticism, learning from the criticism, recognizing nobody's perfect. And just because you have a title doesn't mean you got it all figured out. And so that criticism can, be extremely healthy if you open your mind, open your heart, and open your ears. So, and let people know that you're okay with that.
Yeah. Criticism is constructive criticism is great. So
it's a key tool.
Yeah.
Steph, how can people get in touch with you? How can they learn more about BZConnects?
Well, you can go on my website, www.bzconnects.com. You can contact me through there, and my email is smontgomery@bzconnects.com. We're more than welcome to talk to anybody, any questions that you may have. We help people. Besides my immediate team, I have associate companies that work with me because I don't do everything. And so you may need a SOQ, you might need some paperwork straightened out, you might need some tax work. I got all the resources for you. So we're just a one. That's why we call us a one-stop shop. We'll recommend somebody you can work with them. They give you a fair price on helping you get your business up and established, or getting in alignment with whoever you need to work with. Because every prime works differently, And so you need to be in alignment with them. So I'm here. I wouldn't say 24 hours a day. I do go to sleep at some time. But if you contact me, we'll get back to you. We have a form right on the website. You can fill it out and just say, hey, I heard you on the Frustrated CEO. I'd like to know more about your business. We'll contact you. We'll set up an appointment, we'll do a Zoom, and we'll set up an appointment. I got to tell you, I do like this virtual world because it allows me to get to more people. Because, the traffic here in LA can be a lot. So if I go have lunch with somebody in LA, that's 5 hours between driving, having lunch, driving back. That's a good 4 or 5 hours. So you can only do so much, but in the virtual world, you can do a lot more. Sometimes you only need a half an hour with them, right? So no driving. So I kind of like it. So
beautiful.
So
any parting thoughts, Leb, Patsy, before we close this out?
I think this was great, Steph. I want to thank you again for
my pleasure
being with us, sharing your wisdom with us, being who you are with us.
Mm-hmm.
It's been great fun, great pleasure. And listeners, let's get practical, right? We're just not talking here. And thank you for listening to the Frustrated CEO. Patrick, back to you for anything final.
No, that's it. Just thanks for tuning in, Steph. Thank you. You lived up to the introduction that Leb gave you. So
thank you.
Thank you for that. It was you're a great guest. And yes, listener, as we said, download this episode and all episodes from wherever podcasts are sold. And you can download the Let's Get Practicals for this episode and all previous episodes at thefrustratedceo.com. You can also connect with us on LinkedIn. Just do a search for the Frustrated CEO podcast and you'll find us there. We'd love to have you, and you can see snippets from this and all of our episodes past and future. That's it. I think that's it. We'll let our speaker take us out.
Okay. Well, thank you guys. Appreciate it. And thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.